Rupert, things you say, and this happened again. You tend to unlock things in my mind when I listen to you. So you unlocked two things, but one is appropriate in this context. So I just wanted to quickly share it. Um, Maybe just life has the tendency to do that. Just life, going through the motions of life, the ups and downs of life. Because at least in my case, um, these motions of life made me realize that I can be in many different states in the mind. If you visualize the mind or consciousness, when I use the word mind, I don't mean thoughts. I'm still attached to the Western tradition. I mean phenomenal consciousness when I use the word mind. So if I visualize metaphorically the mind as the vastness of space, um, different feelings or even different dispositions, different understandings, different motivations to action, personality traits, thoughts and opinions. These are all different places in that space, different places in the mind, different rooms that you visit over time. And life has, at least in my case, has done this to me to understand my own anxieties, my own dispositions, personality traits, opinions, visions, and all that as places in the mind. When I have certain dispositions, I am in one place in the mind. When I have another kind of understanding, I am in another place in the mind. And if you've seen this enough in your own case, it becomes so easy, so self evident to understand that what other people are is you in another place in the mind. Know what I mean?
Yes.
It's the
Yeah.
same subject in another place in the mind in a parallel timeline.
Yes.
So it's not like you will be in that place in the mind in the future. No, you are there right now because you are in a parallel timeline. It's the same you in another place in the mind. And once that understand comes in, uh, then you truly, truly see other people as you, not the me, not the ego you, but the subject that experiences the world through a different perspective, because that subject can be in many different chambers in the palace of mind. And once that happens, at least in my case, conceptual understanding sort of transmuted into this immediate apprehension of other people as me in another chamber in the palace of mind, truly me. And then notions like vengeance and punishment, they disappear, but not force against evil, because I know I'm very dangerous when I am in that other place in the mind, and I need to stop myself when I am in that other place in the mind.
Yes. Yes. So you could say, Bernardo, I'm just kind of the image that you've just given. You could say that an individual's thoughts take place sequentially in time, but other people are like thoughts, like the thoughts we have in our own mind, but they take place consecutively in space.
Yes, and actually, there is a world-renowned physicist working on this. That's Professor Bernard Carr from Queen Mary University in London. Somebody you should meet, Rupert.
Funnily enough, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Bernardo. I did a conversation with a group recently in America. And to my surprise, it was a small group and they were mainly scientists. To my surprise, he was one of the attendees. And we had a conversation. And I not only recognized him, I recognized the name. And I very much liked our conversation. And I thought afterwards, gosh, I must get in touch with him. But this conversation has now triggered that memory. I think I will, especially if you say he's working on this idea, because the idea that an individual's thoughts happen sequentially in time within their own individual mind, but other other people are simply thoughts that happen consecutively in space.
In a
In fact,
parallel timeline, you could look,
in fact, I did go even further to say that they don't happen in space, but that the illusion of space is created to accommodate two simultaneously appearing thoughts. Because in our own individual mind, if there was only one dimension of time, we couldn't have two thoughts at the same time. That's why they have to be separated, and their separation, if there's only one dimension, the distance between these two thoughts is called time. But if there can be two thoughts occurring simultaneously, then in what is the space that is going to accommodate them? Not time, because they happen at the same time. There have to be another space in order to. Perhaps that's what physical space is.
You nailed it. You nailed it. So,
That's interesting.
Simon, may I elaborate on this a little more?
Please.
Physicist Lee Smolin from the Perimeter Institute, he has proposed this notion that you can reduce space to time. So this spatial separation is actually at the root level, if Lee is correct, temporal separation.
Yes.
And then the difficulty of seeing another as yourself disappears. The other is you in the same sense that your past self was you and your future self will be you. So another self in space is just like your past self of your future self or your future
Yes.
self. It's still you. And this idea came to my mind for the first time. I was still a child, and I watched my father play chess against himself. Because before the time of computers and engines, if you were a chess student, that's how you did it. So my father would play a move with white, then stand up, go to the other side of the table, and then play a move with black, and then stand up and go to the other side. So the way I pictured it was the following: if I could chop off the moment in which my father was on the black side, and chop off the moment in which my father was on the white side, and then sew together all the whites and sew together all the blacks, then it's still my father, but now my father is truly playing against himself in parallel timelines.
Yes.
See what I mean?
Yes.
And
yes.
and one way to understand why I am you and you are Simon and everybody's one is this: chop it up down to an infinitesimal microscopic level, and then sew these together in a self-consistent way. And then I am you for the same reason that my father was playing black and white. But when you chop it off and sew together the whites, my father playing white in that parallel timeline would have the impression that he was always playing white, because the experience of playing black was chopped off, and the surrounding experience of playing white were sewed together. So there would be a continuity in the white and a continuity in the black. So my father playing white would say, I'm the one playing white. I'm not the guy playing black, because I have this continuity in this timeline in which I've been playing black all along. And the guy playing black or white, whatever, would have the same thought, but it's both my father. And Bernard is trying to formalize this mathematically in the form of multidimensional time. And it's the best game in town for us to have this understanding of the unity of consciousness from a rigorous scientific perspective. Hopefully, Bernard will have, and this is a project for more than one lifetime. Hopefully, Bernard will get people who will continue this after him. I mean, he has the pedigree. He was Stephen Hawking's very first graduate student. He lived with Stephen Hawking when Stephen started getting ill. I mean, there's an actor that plays Bernard Carr in the movie The Theory of Everything. He has the pedigree, so he's impossible to not take seriously. So hopefully he can cultivate this respect he has to attract people that can give follow-up to the work he's doing.
Right. Should we get back on track and to the implications? Rupert, at the start you spoke, obviously we've touched on how we feel and think ourselves, and then also how we relate, even in extreme cases, as the one we spoke about earlier. And then you spoke about nature and a relationship to nature and to animals and so forth. Could you dive a bit deeper into that one?
Yes. Well, in relation to animals, you just have to imagine, and it's good to do this with people as well. You have to imagine and feel that you are literally the animal, that it is yourself. Because if what Bernardo has just said, if what we're all suggesting is that the self of all people and animals, the being, the essential core sense of self or subjectivity is the same, then this means that literally, not metaphorically, but literally, the animal, in this case we're talking about, the animal is our self. So put yourself in the position of the animal. I am that cat. I am that fish. I am that cow. How would I want to be treated? Well, that's how we should treat it. Why? Because if we ask ourselves, how do I want to be treated? Would anyone say, I want to be treated with cruelty, with injustice, with unkindness, with violence? No, no one would say that about themselves. Why do we feel justified in believing that about someone else or another animal? Only because we consider them to be different from, separate from ourselves. As soon as we imagine a person or an animal to be separate from ourselves, that enables us, it gives us permission to behave towards them in a way that we would never countenance another behaving towards us. Why? It's just because we feel we are separate from them. You remove that feeling of separation and you feel, I am that other person, then we then treat the other person, the animal in this case, as we would want to be treated. That would govern, it would revolutionize the way we treat animals, or it would revolutionize the way we treat humans.